Daniel Sports Center, we go for a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 10 matchup between the LSU Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Two of your top contenders in the SEC this season going head-to-head in Week 10. LSU's a team that is 6-2 on the season. This is a two-loss team that I feel like is definitely a bit overlooked at this point. This is still a very dangerous team that is more than capable of beating some really good teams right now, and what a chance they have coming up here in Week 10 to take on one of their big rivals in Alabama. Crimson Tide are 7-1 on the season, took a loss in Week 2, but ever since then, they have only gotten better this season, very much still in the college football playoff picture, but to stay in it, obviously got to beat LSU coming up here this week. We'll be over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with your team trends. LSU beat Army 62-0 in their last matchup. Both teams are coming off of byes as well, so both these games were a couple of weeks ago, but for LSU, 6-2 overall, 4-1 in conference. Both teams have taken a loss on the season to a non-conference opponent. LSU lost to Florida State, and Alabama obviously lost to Texas, but the Tide are still undefeated in conference at 5-0. They beat Tennessee 34-20, which was a huge win for the Tide. I mean, Tennessee is one of the better teams in the SEC, and they had a strong lead early on, but Alabama came back and had a pretty impressive win there in the end. But both teams got some good momentum heading into this matchup for sure. Games be on Saturday, November 4th in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama is the home team for this one, and also a night game too, 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Alabama obviously a tough place to play, especially at night. So that definitely is an advantage for the Crimson Tide, and it makes sense to see them favored on the spread as well, currently by 4. Over under 60. Then the FBI is also going with Alabama here 62%. Series history. Alabama leads at 55-27. A lot of matchups obviously in this series, and LSU has had some success in recent time. We've seen LSU win 2 of the past 4 in this series. We saw them win last season in Baton Rouge, and obviously back in 2019 during LSU's national championship season, where LSU actually won it in Tuscaloosa. So otherwise, I mean, those are the only 2 wins that LSU has had in recent time. Otherwise, Alabama has been fairly dominant. Stat comparison, LSU second in points per game. This is a strong team offensively. That's really what this team should be known for. And I mean, Jaden Daniels has not let down. He has been incredible this season, 2,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 3 picks on the season. He really doesn't turn over the ball much. And I mean, he's really been impressive all around. But defensively, that's where this team has gotten into trouble a few times. You consider, I mean, a few of the games, obviously allowing 55 to Ole Miss. That was a brutal loss. I mean, this offense still scored 49. But obviously the defense just could not make any stops in that one. And even against Florida State, things kind of fell apart down the stretch of that game, and defensively just turned into a mess. But otherwise, this offense has gotten it done, and overall been very impressive. And Alabama on the other side, they are 40th in points per game, 13th in points allowed. Alabama's kind of the opposite with LSU, in that this is a strong team defensively instead of the offense. Their offense is still good, and it's really improved, I feel like, this season. I mean, you consider, I still think back to that South Florida game coming off of the Texas loss. The way this offense just was, they just looked awful in that matchup. It was really concerning, but since then, I feel like this team has gradually gotten better. Obviously, they've been a bit inconsistent at times, but there is improvement to be seen with this Alabama team in general. And offensively, they are only getting better. And defensively, this is a team that, I mean, they aren't super dominant. They're ranked 13th in points allowed, and they're still allowing right around 20 points a game in their last few matchups. But they're still showing potential and getting better, that's for sure. Your recent matchups, LSU, obviously the dominant win over Army, 62-0. They also beat Auburn 48-18. That was a huge win there. Beat Missouri 49-39, which, fast forward, suddenly Missouri's ranked in the top 15 once again. They're taking on top-ranked Georgia this week. But that was a huge win there against Mizzou. And lost Ole Miss 49-55, but I do take this loss pretty lightly for LSU. I mean, that's a game that could have easily gone either way. It just so happened that Ole Miss found a way in the end, barely. But, I mean, I do think that Florida State loss back in Week 1 was definitely kind of an ugly one, so definitely count that. But that Ole Miss game was so close. It's really, it's tough to say LSU is bad because of that loss. And obviously the Arkansas game beat them 34-31. As for Alabama, beat Tennessee 34-20. Close game against Arkansas. Both teams had close games. against the Razorbacks this season. And then obviously for the Tide beat Texas A&M on the road 26-20. That was a big win. Beat Mississippi State 40-17. Also took care of Ole Miss, no problem, by a couple of touchdowns. Your key points: LSU 6-2. Jaden Daniels is an incredible quarterback. This team should not be overlooked. I feel like this is a team that heading into this matchup, they're 6-2. They're kind of, they're still a fringe contender, but kind of out of college football playoff contention at this point because of 2 losses. But this team is very much one that I think could be a dark horse down the stretch here. And they shouldn't be overlooked. They're a dangerous team that is more than capable of beating some really good teams down the stretch here. But this is a strong team, especially on offense. Jaden Daniels is an incredible quarterback, and it's cool to see that he's finally hit what we knew his full potential was. When he was a freshman back at Arizona State, we knew that he was a special quarterback, and obviously he kind of flatlined the next couple of years, and then he transfers to LSU, and he has been a star the past couple of years. And the winner of this game, though, this goes for LSU and obviously for Alabama, who does remain in that top position right now. Winner of this game is in control for the SEC West at this point. Ole Miss is still kind of in the background, but honestly, I feel like LSU and Alabama, it's probably going to be one of these 2 teams to win that division. And so, for LSU, a huge game for them to try to take control and get back to the SEC championship. But for Alabama, this team had a bumpy September, but this team is starting to heat up, and definitely at the right time as we look forward to November. This team does have an experience, and this is not the most dominant Alabama team that we've seen in recent time, but they're only getting better. And I feel like this is, there's still a lot of really good teams around the country, like Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State, and you can say Washington, Florida State, all undefeated teams still. But Alabama is 7-1. This team did take a loss in week 2, but they're still very much in the college football playoff picture at this point. This team gets to the SEC title game. If they can find a way to beat Georgia, which is more than likely going to be them that they'll be facing, this is a team that very well could still be in the playoff this season. So, but obviously it's just one game at a time if you're the Tide, and taking on LSU, it really starts here in November. But they got home field advantage, a crucial matchup as well. And so with that, let's get the prediction here for LSU and Alabama coming up here in week 10 of action. And in the end, I do want to go with the Crimson Tide. 34-31 is my predicted final score. I think Alabama finds a way to win this one. It's going to be close. I think LSU is a team with Jaden Daniels that, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU found a way. They beat Alabama last season, but I feel like, Alabama has shown some promise, and they've been a bit inconsistent this season. But, I feel like being at home and Nick Saban, this is still a Nick Saban coached team, despite maybe not being the strongest team he's had. I think Alabama, though, finds a way. 34-31, also being at home. I think the crowd really helps them out. They have a pretty good atmosphere, and find a way to win this one by a field goal. But I'm going to say 55% towards Alabama. It's going to be close, and I do want to take the over as well on the over-under of 60 and LSU to cover the spread in the end. But this is a pretty critical matchup for the SEC West. Winner of this game is more than likely headed to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game. So obviously a lot on the line here, but with that, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, your score predictions and all of that, and stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.